And now I would like to hand it over to our next participants, Iurii Katser from Rosatom, an expert from on AI. Iurii, over to you. Hello, I'm Iurii. I represent Cifrum company. It's a competence center at Rosatom, and I would like to tell you on how we developed an electrolyzer state monitor module. I will tell you about the technological process, challenges for electrolyzers. I will show you the roadmap on how we moved, what were the terms. I will tell you about data science hypothesis, problems we had at a certain stage of our project, and on how we integrated into existing process, our IT infrastructure testing, and finally, results and plans, and the conclusion. As I said, I should begin with the technological process to realize what's electrolyzer we are talking about, and why we tried to improve something. Technological process is uranium is nuclear fuel production, and the chain is very long. It begins with uranium ore mining, then the ore is milled, it is diluted to get dry concentrate as salt, and then it's dried till the state of the dry concentrate. Then it's mixed with fluorine, the uranium oxide, and this is done to get uranium hexafluoride, a very important compound because it can become gaseous, and it's very important to make fuel after from uranium. And then also it's about baking, work with the sand, putting it into a special fuel cells and assembly of the cells. So you see that fluorine is in the center of the process, and fluorine is very important. So we concentrated on one of production areas, in one of production units. To get fluorine, you need electrolysis. It's all standard. You have electrolyte, fluorine, hydrogen, and you get the process fluorine, the gas you need. In the process of electrolysis, a number of parameters are measured. They are parameters like the level of electrolyte, temperature, pressure of exhaust gases. We analyze the processes to identify potential problems with electrolyzers. What problems are we talking about? At the top level, you have like a classical problem like with forced downtime. You also have overhauling when you actually identify a defect. Then, secondly, the existing diagnostic system, they do not suggest preventive measures. And the third problem is that the plant maintenance can be routine, or it can be in case of a failure. So ideally, overhauls should be planned to increase efficiency of equipment and time in between repairs. when we thought about the time, well, it helps to boost performance. I shared with you some inputs for the project. Now, somewhat about the roadmap. The first stage was preliminary work. It starts with business analysis, where we set the framework, the goal for production, where we create project teams, where we execute a number of documents. The next stage is first version of the solution. So here we start to work with data, with models. We work with machine learning models and develop the first version of the application that would be later on integrated on the side of the customer. The third model, a big one, is when we integrate the actual solution and upgrade our models. So here we also reconcile the methodology and schedule of testing, but testing is the last stage, and testing is actually the end stage. After that, we do the summary on results, on how we can improve our work and the business process. I should begin with the fact on how our hypotheses appear. We first need to get data. When we get the data, we create our first backlog we need. It's a really close communication with the customer. It's really, really important to get the customer involved. Also, interviews, continuing business analysis, interviews where we know more about the technical process, where we evaluate metrics important for the customer, how we plan to test it, and so on and so forth.
When data science hypotheses are prepared, it is important to specify our business target, business setting, to see the specific business problems that we work with, and to specify special units, particular units of equipment, of hardware. And within our project, out of all the problems that are met on electrolysis side, some of them that are shown in gray at the bottom cannot be identified at all. So they turn up at once, and the speed of process development is really very high. So it is impossible to detect them beforehand. Further on, we have certain issues with electrolysers that we are not very willing, or that we cannot detect because we do not have enough data. They are very rare issues, or they are issues that do not pose problems in production. For example, anode and cathode pressure, that is highlighted in green, that is an acute problem, and it had very large statistics in maintenance, техническое обслуживание journal. Therefore, we narrow down to specific issues, specific equipment with the similar characteristics. If we talk about a certain set of units of equipment, and as a result, we come up with our data science hypothesis that in this or that way, together with the customer, are proven and validated. Therefore, we have formed our backlog and started working on it. And apart from regular communication with the customer, when we show them insights, findings, results, at a certain stage of the project, we have a certain mind map shaped of our hypotheses that are tested and are successful or unsuccessful. And that is also a good indicator of what we have tried and what has helped, what works, what doesn't. In green here, you can see those methods, approaches, and algorithms that were in production at that point of time. In red, these are unproven hypotheses, and there are also hypotheses that we simply put down but are not planning to test them because not enough data are available, or that is too labor-consuming. So first of all, we have looked at the solution from all the possible sides. And after the communication with the customer, we understood that they have pretty good understanding of what heuristics work for our task. And our task, I will remind you, was detection of abnormalities at the stage of their turning up, including anode, cathode pressure. So we took certain heuristics given by technical experts and implemented them. We also tried different approaches in terms of model settings. That can be models for anode pressure detection or models for both anode and cathode detection, pressure detection. And we have also tried a model that generally enables us to see deviations from a normal state, normal conditions of the whole unit. And the last approach, by the way, did not drive any results. We have also tried ensembles, and ensembles actually have given us the best results, but the results that they have given were actually exceeding the results that were enough. So summing it up, we have had various approaches tested. Some of them were given to production, so we installed them into the app. We have given them to the customer and tested them. And these are production data. This is production process, so a lot of problem data were present. And normal mode identification was an issue to us, and it took us a lot of time and effort to be able to build a model of a normal mode and find deviations of that. And we have different approaches to that. I will not give you detail on that. And after we have elaborated the first model, after we have improved this model and elaborated the app, our scheme of integration into the current process looks like this. So we have an electrolysis process, and from it we gather data and signals that in real-time mode go to the system of data storage. And in our system, we have a pre-processing system, implementation and inference of models. And these models enabled us to detect abnormalities beforehand, alert on them. And on the right-hand side, you see a prototype, and that was given to the customer. And the first part of the project, we worked in our app, and the customer monitored it and saw how these or those models worked. And now we could see false trigger and those that were not seen by the customer. And in the third stage, we have improved our app, and it was a time of app testing. And in the third stage, we also agreed PMI with the customer, and the customer actively took part in the process. We exchanged our ideas and the information that has to be reflected in PMI, and what information we would like to gather as a result of PMI, because we did not want to have a successful test only. We wanted to have maximum information on model behavior. And that was a good test and check for the existing model. For example, now you can see that the customer had the system up and running, and in SCADA they had this existing abnormalities detection, and we compared it not with the absence of the system, but we had a comparison to the existing system. The testing took 3 months, and that was according to the plan. And weekly, we validated the results and looked into the incidents that, according to our opinion or the customer's opinion, were true or false implementation. And our model improved the existing algorithms significantly, and the test was recognized successful. We received certain insights, and we improved the data collection quality, and there were a lot of positive side effects. As for the results, we can state that we have elaborated a predictive analysis system, which is an import-independent solution, and that system contained models of processes and mathematical models based on machine learning, and it enabled to automatically detect defects at an early stage determined by the customer. So the customer determined the time when they needed to know about the defects to be able to work on them. And we also gave operators certain alarms, and it was convenient because the operator sits at their dashboard, and they were able to receive this additional information, additional important information. And finally, we talk about factors that influence, and we indicate signals, specific signals that show that an abnormality is being born, and that helps us to get to diagnosis stage and actually mitigate the issue. As for the plans, first of all, our optimization is pretty precise, and we are planning to expand the equipment, units and processes for optimization and improvement. And we are also moving towards optimization and improvement of not simply separate stages of technological process, but the whole technological process. And what also is important is that we work on integration of platform solution, and our models and our solutions are a starting point for understanding how, what models and what processes we need to optimize the production comprehensively. In conclusion, I would like to say that we have driven results not only on this project, but generally in terms of what we need to pay attention to and where we need to look. So first and foremost, communication is important. We need to communicate as much as possible, because through communication we can learn and share a lot of significant information. And apart from that, personal communication and interaction is critical. In the pandemic, this personal communication enabled us to speed up processes and simplify certain procedures. While working with production, we always have to bear in mind that there are a lot of standardized procedures. Some standards, norms of production, mainly in nuclear industry, there are these standards in abundance, and we need to bear that in mind because it gives certain additional restrictions, and it increases the cost of the project, and you cannot evade that. And in nuclear industry, safety is a top priority, including information safety and security. Therefore, fast data acquisition and working with the customer infrastructure, integration into the customer infrastructure, that all is really crucial, and we need to pay due attention to that. And we have to understand that it makes the process harder, but it is like it is, and it's critical. And experts that work in production actually are not always motivated to engage in your work. They always have their own plans, and if they are motivated artificially, externally, it does not always work well because they have their own plans of production and they focus on it. And a couple of more points. We need to start with data gathering. I will give you my story. In this project, data acquisition initially was good. Data were good. Well, they had a lot of problems like all industrial data do, but they reflected the real conditions. They showed the technological process pretty well. They reflected all the issues that turn up within this process. But we did not have abnormalities registering very well. Even when they turned up, they were not always registered at all because the personnel worked on them on the spot, and it was really important to understand it from the very beginning, to understand what to improve, how to gather data correctly, so that during the test it should not turn out that it all crumbles in pieces. And we also have to understand how the system will be installed. For that, we need to have checklists at the beginning of the process. If the system is embedded into the customer infrastructure, we need to understand how the data analytics will take place. And this all is really critical, and that influences how our data analytics system will operate. And model has to be interpreted, because the leadership and the personnel will not trust the model if it cannot be interpreted. So interpretability and simplicity of the model is really what means a lot. And we work with data and simple models all the time because of that, not on AutoML and large number of stackings or large number of models, something complex and difficult. No, we focus on simplicity and interpretability. That is really critical when you work with production. And the last, but really huge sore point is the difficulty in economic effect calculation. Very often, customers are in charge of that because they are in charge of economic effect, and they would not like to simply sign what the solution developer offers them. But actually, we need to also be involved in that process very much, because the customer in production does not understand very well what your system will cover, what it will do. Therefore, our engagement in economic effect calculation is must do, and that is something that we always try actually to perform, because sometimes the economic effect is not of very high quality, and we need to work on that at later stages of the project. That is it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Iurii, very much.